Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. As a disclaimer, this channel is for entertainment purposes. These are my opinions. I'm not here to slander, so let's get started. Today I want to discuss something that really came up as I was studying the PCA this last time. And it's just one simple statement in this PCA. And we've all read it 1,000 times. I may have even read it in one of my last videos that I did on this. And it didn't register to me. And things that don't register to me at the time, they just come back and kind of slap me in the face a little later. It just pops in my head and I go, whoa, wait a minute. What is that all about? And this is definitely one of them. But this is going to regard the roommates in this case. And I know that's a topic that a lot of people have a lot of questions about because of that 8-hour time delay and, other suspicious circumstances surrounding it. And whenever I look at something in this case and I put it into my timeline, it's got to make sense. And I don't mean just for that specific event, but it's got to make sense in the totality of events that have taken place in this case. And if it doesn't make sense in the totality, it doesn't make it into my timeline. But I've been thinking a lot here lately, and I've been rethinking and then thinking again. So now, when we talk about my thoughts on the real reason that the atrocity took place, and I'm about 99% sure that I'm correct on this, and for those of you that have watched my videos, you know what my thoughts are. And if you haven't watched all of them, maybe you should go back and do that. Because I believe that the mother and the stepmother turned in evidence, trying to take a deal, reduce their sentences, is what caused the message to be sent in this case. And that message was the unaliving of 4 individuals, specifically the unaliving of 2 individuals, and then the other 2 weren't supposed to be there. They're collateral. And the more that I think about this, though, and I think about the aftermath, I'm beginning to believe that that message was absolutely sent to those individuals, but it was also sent to a lot of other individuals. Have you ever noticed how we don't hardly hear anything from people in that town, in the college, talking about the case, the families of the victims, the roommates? I mean, we don't hear much from anybody that has inside knowledge on this thing or has knowledge on events surrounding this thing. Now, I get posts in my videos all the time, comments from my great commenters, and some of them stick out. One gentleman commented that, he has a business there in Moscow, and he was discussing how the drug task force is hard at work operating in the fashion in which they do. He said he had an employee that worked for him that he was picked up on some minor drug charges, and he said they kept him in that Latah County jail there for almost 3 weeks, and during that time he was approached more than 5 times by members of the drug task force asking to get information on people in the supply chain so that he could get out of that jail. Now, in his comment, he said the kids stood strong, didn't give him that information, and that's why they kept him as long as they could, which was probably smart, because I believe that message that was sent, everybody heard loud and clear. And that's the people in the town, people in the college, people in law enforcement. I believe that was a message that was sent to everybody. And that was, back off, keep your mouths shut, and stop doing business the way that you're doing it. Now, did it stop doing business the way that they were doing it? No, but you can bet it sure hampered it, because I believe that people in that town now don't do a lot of talking. And why is that important? Well, I'm going to talk about these roommates here in just a minute. But the more that I look at on the events that led up to this atrocity, the more I believe that there may have been some eyes on these youngsters before this thing even happened. maybe even some protective eyes. There may have been a lot of talk that there was potential danger involved for these young victims of this atrocity because of what their mother and their stepmother had done. And I believe law enforcement was keeping an eye on them. I believe that may have been part of the deal, that they would keep an eye on people to make sure that they were safe, which made the atrocity even more of a difficult task for somebody to pull off. And we know that the father of one of the victims, 2 weeks prior to this atrocity happening, went in and put new locks on Xana's door. Now, as he's doing that, he's probably letting them know what the danger is. That's probably why Kaylee got out of there several weeks before this atrocity took place, for her safety. That means the roommates in the house would have known that there was danger possibly imminent as well. So let's look into that for just a minute. Here's a statement from the PCA that now kind of shocks me.
Okay, so here we are back to the PCA, and it's this statement that has got me perplexed. And it's the statement that I was focusing on a while back that determines the time of the atrocity. So let's take a look at it real quick. It says, and you can see I've got it highlighted, the combination of Mortenson's statement to law enforcement, which that would have been the bushy eyebrow guy. I'm going to skip this one. And the video of a suspect video is described below, and that talks about the Hyundai Elantra, obviously. That leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 and 4:25 a.m. But this is the part that I want to focus in on now. Look at this. Reviews of forensic downloads of records from Funk and Mortenson's phone. Reviews of forensic downloads of records from Funk and Mortenson's phone. Now, we've already determined through those Steve G texts that what was going on with Funk and Mortenson's phone is they were texting each other back and forth during the time of the atrocity. Now, why doesn't this statement simply say the combination of Mortenson's statement to law enforcement, text between Funk and Mortenson during this time, and a video of a suspect video as described below leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 and 4:25 a.m. That's what it should state, but it doesn't. It states review of forensic downloads of records. Folks, what that tells me is Funk and Mortenson deleted their texts to each other. This conversation was not discovered just simply by them handing their phones to the investigators and them reading those messages back and forth between each other. This was the result of them having to do forensic downloads of records, go through deleted messages, and find this conversation. That is very interesting.
So, why, if everything was innocent, why would they need a forensic download to determine the text messages between the other two roommates during the time of the atrocity? And apparently, those text messages led law enforcement to believe that that was the time the atrocity was occurring, because only those text messages, along with the sighting of that Hyundai Elantra, determines the time of the atrocity in the PCA. So why would they delete those? Well, there's only two reasons that I can see why they would delete them. One is there was something incriminating to themselves in those text messages. And one possibility is maybe a discussion of if this did just take place, what we need to do before we call law enforcement as far as making sure that our safety is secure. Maybe dialing 911 wouldn't be a smart thing to do. Maybe we have some small things here in the house that we need to get rid of and get cleaned up before we dial 911. I don't know. It could be a lot of things. But they had reasons to delete them. And that must have been something that they had discussed among each other to delete them. And you can bet they were deleted, or else they wouldn't need a forensic download to get those messages. It's just food for thought. But please like and subscribe to the channel. Please post your comments, your criticisms. You know I like to read your thoughts. And until next time, Pavarotti's out.